All right. Hi, Alexandra. So we were discussing something about the colors. You mentioned about some colors that represent the energy, the kind of food we eat. So could you just touch upon that? What do you mean by that? Could you just expand that for our audience?
Of course. So thank you, first of all, for having me in your podcast. We were talking about spiritual things like to be conscious about the colors you're having in your life. I, for example, had or I wore often just black things, and I never was conscious about that. Black is also a really wonderful color if you want to dress elegant, but it's also like the color for death. And when you have black around all the time, like nothing joyful can come into your life. So the thing is, I, for example, had so much gray and black in my flat, but when I changed it, when I brought in more colorful colors, like for example, you can see my background, I did for my podcast, I did a wall and I brought into, for example, brighter colors because they bring in so much more joy and a dress completely different nowadays because you need to get aware that colors have something to say. For example, green stands for wealth and also for growing. Yellow, for example, is the color of the sun and it brings you more energy, for example. And we were also talking about eating, like that eating is so important when you eat sugar or much food which contains sugar, it's not good at all for your body. Or, for example, if you are taking those products which contains a lot of those E numbers, is not good because most of the E numbers are really affecting your body like negatively
You
because
mean to
they
say
are,
the
sorry,
emulsifiers and the number E502, E602,
E9,
those on the
E5.
labels. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes. Those are mostly chemical stuff and which is not really good for your body because if you Google it and most time it has a name you can't even pronounce and then you see, okay, if I am eating this right now, my stomach can be damaged or it's bad for my liver or something like that. So you really should be aware what you're eating, how your environment looks like, what you want to have in your life, not just like colors and eating. It's about getting aware who you are, what you want to have in your inner and in your outer world. Yes.
I love that inner and outer world example because I kind of teach my clients in a very similar fashion. There is a saying, uh, as above, so below. So
Yes.
in Hindi it means, in Sanskrit, if I'm not wrong, yatha pinde tatha brahmande, meaning what is inside is outside. And I was
Yes.
listening to one of a scientist researcher, Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm not sure if you have heard of him.
No.
Okay. So I was listening to his research study today, to his podcast, and he was mentioning that, as you rightly mentioned, about the environment is important for our change, right? So I have a picture that he said, that we are made up of DNA. We are ultimately made up of proteins on a very cellular level. So our protein determines our behavior. Our RNA determines our short-term memory, and our DNA determines our long-term memory. But the primary cause of every human being, the way he is, the way how he or she is, the way, the kind of diseases he or she attracts, is all based on the environmental signals,
Yes.
on
Yes.
what kind of signals that person is getting from the environment. Just plug in my charger. Laptop's dying. So, environment is a very huge factor, and we don't tend to consider it that much. We kind of take it for granted. But when I saw this research, I was very shook. we can start changing ourselves, our whole being, from inner and outer world, just from being in a very healthy environment, as you suggested, from the food
Yes.
we eat, from the kind of people we hang out with, because
Yeah.
we all exchange energies when we are across people. So any incident in your life, Alexandra, that you have encountered energies with different people, and how did it feel for you? Like any kind of learning you got from there, any experience that you could share?
I think there is a beautiful saying, like you when you think about a flower and you put the flower, for example, in the dark, the flower can't grow. But if you put it into the right environment, it grows like never ending. And I think this is a wonderful saying because when you are with the right people, you can grow and you will shine and everything will feels like you are in the right place at the right time. But when you have friends or family members, for example, or a boyfriend or girlfriend who puts you down, who's always saying, Alex, for example, you can't go for your dreams, come back to reality. What you're saying is not a thing. You can't do it. You are not, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, a really important Austrian. Yeah, so when you are in the wrong environment, you can't shine, you can't grow. And I also had this with my friends. I had friends who were putting me down, who were not lifting me up. They were like, "Oh, Alex, come back." Or a friend of mine, a really old friend, she all the time said, like, "Alex, I told you that, you can't do that. I told you this." And I was like, "Yeah, but I need to do it, the experience myself. And I really need to go for it for myself to make those experience that I can learn about and that I don't like do it again because I think everything you do in your life and when you're going through, you learn so much through it. Like thinking, I was an overthinker. I all the time thought like, I can't go to this person, I can talk to him like, and now I'm like, I'm a doer. Like I go to him, I speak with him, and then I'm like, okay, this wasn't so hard. Like, why haven't I ever thought about that? So it's really like you need to become aware of so many things in your life, like what's, as I mentioned before, what's good and what's bad, what's hindering you from going to your goals, going towards your dreams. What are your, for example, thoughts? What are your belief systems? What beliefs do you still have when it comes towards going your dreams, which are hindering you, which are like, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. Oh, or for example, my parents said this won't be reachable, this goal, or you need to make money. Come on, you can't like to get money from the podcasting and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, come on, it's my life. I know what I am capable of, and I know that everything will come to me in the perfect time. So I think when you're also a positive thinker, your whole life will change because you're like, oh my God, sun is shining. I'm so happy. And when you're happy, of course, authenticity and also happiness is one of the highest frequencies. And then you attract more and more of positive stuff into
Yes,
your life.
I completely agree, and that's so beautifully put, Alex. Thank you. How do people find you? Like you mentioned, you have a podcast, and for most of you who are listening, Alex, she got into helping people, coaching people now, and I think you help them to chase their dreams and goals, achieve them,
Yes.
and not live in that low frequency self doubt.
Yes.
So how can people find you, more about your podcast and your work?
So I am having my podcast, which is called Remarkable Opportunities, where I did interviews with experts from different areas to show the different opportunities your life can offer. Like you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a painter, you can be an actor, you can be so much. just go for your dreams and go for your desires. And I think everyone has a dream and a desire because it's there to really go for it and live the most beautiful life ever. So if people want to contact me, they can find me in on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube on Remarkable Opportunities. And if they want, for example, to do some coaching or talk to me, or I don't know, I try to motivate everyone, then yeah, just text me and yeah, follow me for more content.
Perfect. I'll link all the contact info of Alex in the description. Alex, before we part ways, I have one final thing that I want to know, that you mentioned about the people who try to put you down. People who don't believe in you, could be family members. For most of us, they are family members. you know do you see it? How do you see those things? Do you see those things as karmic debt? Do you see those things as, this is my karma that I have to face, that I have to you know live it and experience it and then push through it? Or do you experience it as victim victim mindset, like, okay, why is this thing happening to me? Why? Because there are so many people, I can tell you, so many people, who have toxic friends, who have toxic parents, who have people who drain the hell out of hell out of them, right? And they don't know how to get out of that toxic situation. So what would you tell them?
So the first thing is I have been in this victim mindset for such a long time. I have been in this victim mindset for over, I think, 26 years. I was like, why are my parents don't getting me? Why don't they stand up for me? Of course, they were proud of me sometimes, but they put me down. I think they don't even notice that they put me down. They always were like, yeah, I love you, baby, and you can do everything. But then they said things like, oh, and I was there, I was in this victim mindset, and my ex-boyfriend was all the time like, your mom, your dad, they are like that. Please don't cry, don't make a huge thing out of it, you know them. And when I got separated from my boyfriend, I needed to fight against them on my own the first time. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are they so mean to me? What have I done before? Like, I got conscious about it. And then everything changed. I was like, hey, you can't talk to me like that. This is not okay. I'm setting boundaries now. And I'm telling them, hey, if you are phoning me and, for example, screaming at me, I, I'm not talking to you like this. So I will hang off and tell him like when you are okay again, then you can phone me because there is a reason you phoned me. I think you don't want that to phone me and scream at me. Like, what have you wanted to tell me? And I think my parents also get. I know that they start seeing that I changed because I'm like, no, you can't talk to me like that. I am your child, yes, but you also need to be aware what you are saying, what you are doing. Like every word when you it's negative is harming for me. And this was the beginning, and now I'm like, yes, yes, I know them, and I'm still figuring out what or how to cope with it. But the thing is, I became aware. I said them, that's not okay. I don't want that you are talking to me like that. And you need to also get aware of how you are talking to me. I think you don't want to talk to me like that. You got, I don't know, angry at something and you yelled at me, but it's not okay that I am your like your punching bag. Please make it clear with yourself and don't use me to be your punching bag. And I think when you communicate it to the people, they get conscious as well. they are like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't want to do that. I wasn't aware that I'm doing this. And I think
I
this is a
agree.
really big game changer.
Superb. I think, yeah, it's time that people start standing up and speaking up for themselves, and
Yes.
not being a victim of the trauma that
Yes.
their parents have been through. Because I feel that our parents didn't know much better. They were a part of that whole trauma, and they were not conscious on how to, get rid of that, and they passed it on to us. But I
Yes.
think, now we are in a time where I see most people, I speak to them, that they're breaking that generational trauma. They are the first ones to break it. They are the first ones to do something legendary in their family, for their family. And I think we are going through a very beautiful shift in the world.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and I think our parents, as you said, they didn't know how to make it better. They had no clue. And I think again, it's all about awareness. When you are becoming aware that you're doing this and you don't want to do it or you don't want to have it in your life, you can change it. And I think this is the most beautiful thing that everyone should be aware of, that you can change every second of your life if you don't want to have it. A friend always says it like that for me: if you don't want to watch this TV program, you have the television, like the
Yeah.
yeah, you can switch and you
Switch
can
the control. You have the remote in your hands.
yes, yes, and the remote can alter to a different movie. So please, if you don't like this movie, switch it.
That's so powerful. If you don't like something, get up and change it.
Yes, yes.
Superb. What would be that one final thing that you would want our listeners to take away?
So the last thing I want to share with you is really become aware of your inner and outer world, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to change, what's okay, because you don't always have to change. It's also okay to stay at some point and say, okay, I think my life is beautiful as it is right now. You don't have to change all the time. This was also a huge thing I learned. But if you want to go for your dreams and for your desires, never stop pursuing them, because I think we all have this one life and we should do the best out of our lives. Yeah. And
Lovely.
also thank you again for having me on this podcast.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
So, guys, this was Alex. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, meanwhile, put in the comment section below. I'll answer them. If you have any questions for Alex, answer it below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.